Alright, today we're going to do GME UHF CB stuff. So we've got ourselves a new TX330c, I think this is. It's one of the little compact ones that hides away under the dash. All the controls are on the handpiece. I've installed lots of these in the past when I did radio installs. No longer employed with them. But we want to bench test this. I haven't ever played with the XRS Connect stuff before, but it does a lot of nifty little features. So we'll hook it up to a phone at some point and see what that does. Now I have up here, I have my bench supply over in the corner here, and that is connected to the power connector with a big thing that says don't plug it in backwards. Very sound advice. They could put a bridge rectifier in these to avoid that, but they just put a single diode. But it keeps the price down. These things, if you short circuit the antenna, it will blow the transmit finals, but they are fairly easy to replace, fortunately. But these basically are a 5-watt handheld radio in a box with all the fancy bits on this end. So yeah, let's plug this in and see how it goes. And while we're at it, we might nick the UHF antenna connection off the back of this and plug it into it to test. Now, nothing quite says handheld radio like an FME connector. So they give you a UHF FME adapter. The other radio I've got, or the antenna kit that I've got, has got a UHF connector, but it's not fitted. It's a solder on. I might skip the whole process and just put an FME connector right on the end of the coax. That makes it really easy to poke through the firewall. Now, of course, my late brother, whose radio this used to be, fitted N-types to things. So we have an N-type connector. Now I've got to find an N-type to UHF adapter. This one's been sitting around for a while. He did keep quite the collection of adapters. That looks like N-types. That's N to N.
A few moments later.
So I found one. It was on the back of my late brother's SWR meter, along with the dummy load on there. So for the record, when you do silly stuff like this, you lose signal between each one of these connections. Sexy peel. Now I thought these were RJ11 connections, but they've actually got 8 pins on them. So I think they're just short RJ45s or something. Of course, and the joiner they give you is just an RJ45 coupler. So they are just short RJ45s. Okay, and we have our janky little setup in here. We can give it power. Let's see if things turn on. I should have probably checked. Yes, red is on the positive. We're good. And we're running off a solar battery. Which one is the on button? Okay, turns out we weren't getting power. So I've put my banana plug connector in and done a much more questionable connection up here. Okay, so as soon as I did that, we fired up. So, I'm going to leave this scratch guard on till we install it. Let's see if it's actually got... I think channel 4 is a nearby repeater. I'm not sure if we're on... I think this means we're on duplex mode. I'm pulling about 1/2 amp on it. No, it doesn't. Oh, let's push duplex button. There we go. Try this. Sounds right. Let's turn the volume up. So if you're not familiar with repeaters, basically we're in duplex mode. It's running 2 channels. So you transmit on channel 4, you listen on 34, which is the output. Oh no, you listen on 4, you transmit on 34. So 34 is an input to the repeater, and it will rebroadcast it on channel 4. That's true for channels 1 through 8, and I think 41 through 48 with the new channel system on the 80 channels. That doesn't necessarily mean there are always repeaters on there, but generally you're not supposed to talk on the inputs to those repeaters because people can get confused, and everybody in the countryside can be hearing you and you won't know that. So it's a good way of repeating your signal, getting a good bit of distance. Let's see if we can get somebody to talk to us. Anybody ready for a radio check there, please?
Yeah, mate, you're working.
Beautiful. Just bench testing a new unit. Thanks muchly. Radio. So that repeater from us is roughly, we're about 110 k's or so away. So that's not too bad. 110 kilometers. Don't know where they will be, but they're somewhere within range of the repeater as well. Let's choose one that's a little bit further away from us. This one's up in the mountains, I think. No, we're not going to get that. We'll turn on duplex on all these channels. These are a nice, easy to use radio. Channel 3, I don't think I've ever heard. Channel 4. Channel 5 used to be an emergency repeater that I think somebody stole it about 15 years ago. We haven't heard it since. Now, I think channel 7's about 120 kilometers away from us. There's your ident code. So if you didn't know where I am, you do now, because that's Morse code for BRN07, which is the repeater ident code. So they're about 120 k's away from us. Let's try channel 8. Sometimes we get this one. Alright, so for 5 watts, we're doing pretty well. So only other thing I'm going to do here is scroll through to 41 through 48. Because when they went 80 channels, they shoved everything into the in-between channels. And so 41 through 48 is where the new repeater channels start. And you'll probably notice 49, you can't turn on repeater on it because it's not meant to be a repeater channel. So we're doing pretty well. I'll play with the XRS stuff later. Now, one thing I would do once it's actually installed, not in my janky setup at the moment, is put it through this dusty SWR meter. And what this is a standing wave ratio meter. So it tells you how much power you're pushing out and how much is being reflected back to it. And where these needles cross gives you your SWR. In an ideal world, an SWR of 1 to 1 is perfect. In the real world, you generally never get that. About 1.1 or 1.2 to 1 is about the best you'll really ever see. At the moment, it's going to be probably about 1.4 to 1, or somewhere around about that, with all those connectors and the antenna and everything else. Alright, I have some bits out of the shed. I have an FME plug, which if you want to get this from JCar is a PS7012. And I have the 2.1 dB rubber duck kit, which is an A4005. So, and this kit here, which is crimpers, I haven't got them out in a couple of years because I haven't done this sort of stuff. Over here. Okay, get a stripper here. We need to go around about that length there. Trim a little bit of the dielectric off here. Now with the pressure off, I was able to get it in, but you'll observe two tiny little loops of strand poking out here. They will cause a problem. We might just trim them off. Because I've only got one shot at this one. That crimped nicely. So this one here, I think everything's correct. We do the 2-on-3 crimp. Alright, now our little hangers on that are poking out the side, we trim off. Okay, we're going to plug into the continuity test side of things that's on this box, if we can dodge them cables. Basically, if we have a short circuit here, it tells us. So we're going to pick the outer shroud, go to the inner one. We look good. We do have continuity there. Check ground. That should be connected to ground on that. Oh, that's right, it's an isolated elevated feed, so it should be pretty good. Okay, so after trying to get everything connected to the SWR meter and everything, I don't actually have enough adapters to make all of this work. I'll need another adapter for this. Not the end of the world though. What we are going to do all the same is we're going to demonstrate how the SWR meter works with the dummy load. I'll show you what's going on there. Now this SWR meter can do VHF and UHF. Shows the frequencies. We are set to UHF mode. We're set for 10 watt range, which should be ideal for this. We'll turn our radio on. Our radio is connected to the input. Our dummy load is on the output. Now, antenna tuning is not even across the band. They have resonant frequencies. Usually antennas for the UHF band are tuned for right in the middle, which is around about channel 20 or channel 60, I think, off memory, because the channels are interspersed in between each other frequency wise. So let's go for channel 20 here, or channel 60. Here we go. We'll do this. We won't be actually talking to anybody because it's all going into that dummy load. So let's do this here. So we see we are doing about 1.2 to 1 SWR. That's where the needles cross there. Let's zoom in and give you a closer look at that. Down on this end is where you need to be. See, the needles cross at the, actually that's a 1.1 to 1. Okay, so that is actually an ideal SWR reading for 5 watts. Now I do have this more little compact one where you can switch between forward and reflected power, and you can adjust your resistance in here. So whole purpose here with the SWR meter was to try and check if our antenna tuning was good, and we didn't have a short on the cable or an open ground or something silly like that. We won't know now, not until I get the right gear, or I go see my former place of employment and beg and grovel for them to drag out their SWR meter. So what we're going to do now, plug everything back in and put our antenna somewhere near the window, see if we can hit a repeater with a 2.1 dB antenna. Okay, so we have our antenna sitting on the other side of the room. See if I can scroll all the way down here back to channel 4 being a nearby repeater. Alright, well, we're making the nearby repeater. That's not bad. Let's go to the one a bit further away. We're not making that one. So yes, going down to a 2 dB gain instead of the 12, or no, the 9.1 dB I think that's on the roof. Now, I was just reading before I chopped this off. One thing you do need to be aware of, and something actually really important, make sure there actually is an antenna attached, because nothing screws up your SWR like not having an antenna. So that means all of your power gets reflected back at the radio, and just by going, oh yeah, we'll see if it works, and you can pop the transmit final if you don't have an antenna connected. That's what the dummy load's all about. Okay, we're outside the Jeep, and we can't do the whole install in one go here, because the wife is going to need this Jeep soon. But we need to unthread all of this and try not to get kinks in the coax at the same time. We'll lay that out in the sun for a minute. Oh, will this come off? I'm gonna have to chop this off and start all over again because of that. That is unfortunate. Well, I'm gonna have to buy one again anyway. So now these antennas do actually use a tuned length of coax, so as you shorten this, it messes up your tuning, also known as your SWR. When we get to the last little bit, we can go straight in. So yes, I think 17 is the one. Are we in righty-tighty mode? We are. One of the reasons I don't use an open ender for this is you've only got a few degrees of movement in these usually.
Opens on its own.
Okay, so in here we are not running through the firewall yet, but there is a gland down there we can poke it through. What I want to do for the moment is just get this in a neat place, tie it up, hide it under here for now, because the vehicle is needed in about the next half hour. So we're just going to tuck the coax under here. We'll wire everything else up later. It's going to be interesting. This is always the fun bit with these vehicles, working out how to get the cable in here without having to pull all the paneling off, which I may still have to do. Okay, so we did find ourselves a way in there. Hopefully, if I do this, that's not going to crush it. Let's have a look. Oh, yes, it's going to sit in this corner away from the bonnet nicely. This one you pretty much got to do by feel. Main grommet, supplementary grommet there. Feels like it's free. I don't actually have to poke a hole in it. Oh, that'll be magic if that's the case. Now, there's all sorts of stuff going on in these cars, but usually if you pull the glove box out, which is usually pretty easy, you can get to most of it. Okay, so one stopper, two stopper, and then you should be able to pop this off, and there is a string you need to unclip. It connects to a string. There we go. Now if we pull this carpet piece off, we might be able to get in behind wherever that coax has come out. Okay, so skip forward to the next day where things are a lot cooler, and I managed to get the coax through the firewall and hooked up around here. I managed to get the power cables routed in through here, so now we have a lighter plug that goes into the lighter socket in there. That was going to be the simplest way to do that without interrupting the rather delicate wiring that's in here. We will remove this panel again shortly. We tucked our transmit section in behind here, out of the way, spaghetti style, and we've got some more FME plugs. So I pretty much just need to hook an FME plug up and we should be right. Alright, if I do this right, this one pops out in these spots and this seat goes out down the bottom. This one goes up and that comes out. See, you look like you know what you're doing after you've done it off camera a couple of times. Alright, here's our coax, here's our transmitter in a nice little tiny spot. So we want a loop like that. It gives us enough to relocate it if we have to. Not so much that we're going to cause a problem. It probably will screw the tuning up because I think on these ones it is a tuned length. But at the end of the world, as long as the SWR is somewhere in the ballpark at 5 watts, I think it's not the end of the world. Now, fortunately, this kit that has done quite a tour of duty in vehicles has got cutters. So we'll cut about there. We probably want to go around about there, I think. Do that. Find the notch and slide that bit off. That should crimp on firmly. We don't appear to have a short. That's good. So our transmitter won't go pop when we plug it in. You can use a proper spanner for this too, if you want to be proper in the way you do things. Okay, I think we have all our panel gaps properly aligned. That's a bit of a miracle. That almost never happens. We'll plug our main unit in here. It doesn't feel like it clicks as much as it should. Now reach into the glove box over the back here. Plug in the lighter plug. Okay. Probably don't have power yet, do we? Not yet. I think we've got to push the ignition button. Let's see, ignition button. Let's see. We have power. Turn the radio down. Turn off scan. Volume up. Can we hit a repeater? We probably won't. We're in a tin shed. We do. We hit repeater. All right. Let's go other nearby repeater. Not hitting that one. Sometimes we hit 8. No, what we're listening for is that tail. It's where the repeater stays open for a little bit. Alright, I think we're good. We work. Transmitter hasn't blown up. So we're going to call that done. We're doing GME XRS-330c. So we'll see you all in the next one. Hope it was fun. I've been in pain this whole video, so I'm going to go take some painkillers. See you all in the next one. Hopefully it's a bit more like my usual content.